Welcome to another episode of China Update, where I provide you with the most up-to-date political, economic, and geostrategic analysis on the world's number 2 economy. My name is Tony. Let's jump in. Happy Friday, everybody. I hope you've had a productive week and have a restful weekend ahead. It is likely that there will not be a video tomorrow. If that is the case, there will be a video on Sunday instead. Before we move into the main stories for today, we note 2 miscellaneous but important developments. First, this week, US National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan confirmed that Xi Jinping and Joe Biden will talk by phone, quote, relatively soon. End quote. Sullivan made the comments after returning from Bangkok, Thailand, where he held talks with Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi, adding, quote, "We agreed that President Biden and President Xi should speak and should speak by telephone relatively soon, and I think the acknowledgement is that there really is no substitute for leader-to-leader conversation." End quote. Second, in an exclusive published today, UK-based Reuters reports that on Thursday, Beijing demanded that Ukraine immediately remove more than a dozen Chinese companies from a list of firms designated as, quote, international sponsors of war, end quote, saying it wanted Kiev to, quote, eliminate negative impacts, end quote. Ukraine has listed 48 companies globally, including 14 from China, as international sponsors of war, whose business activities, it says, indirectly assist in or contribute to Russia's war efforts. Reuters reports that, according to one of 2 senior Ukrainian sources, quote, the Chinese ambassador said that the situation with the blacklist, could have a negative impact on our relations, end quote. The second source suggests that Beijing could threaten purchases of Ukrainian grain. Before Russia's invasion in February 2022, China was Ukraine's biggest trade partner, and it remains an important consumer of Ukrainian grain, sunflower oil, and iron ore. We will keep an eye on this space, but for now we move into the main stories for today. On Thursday, the American Chamber of Commerce, AmCham, in China, published its report on business sentiment. This should not be confused with the American Chamber of Commerce in Hong Kong report, which we examined earlier in the week. According to the AmCham in China report, US companies have increased optimism about the near-term business environment in China, though many are still holding off on investments and longer-term things don't look quite as optimistic. We note that the bulk of the data was collected in October, ahead of November's meeting between leaders Joe Biden and Xi Jinping on the sidelines of an Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit in San Francisco, a time of renewed optimism about the relationship. Indeed, 19% of the survey respondents expressed optimism in ties between the 2 superpowers over the next 2 years, up from 8% a year before. Some 40% of survey respondents were optimistic about their profit potential over the next 2 years, up 33% from a year earlier. 44% indicated that they were optimistic about market growth. However, 43% indicated they don't plan to expand their investment this year, and another 5% are planning to cut their spending. The US-China technology competition is having an effect too. 16% of firms in the technology and research sectors said they started moving their manufacturing overseas, up from 9% the year before. Another 16% said they were considering leaving too. While hardly sunshine and butterflies, this AmCham survey is more optimistic than similar recent reports from other chambers. A survey by the German Chamber of Commerce in China, for example, published in January, found that the proportion of German firms exiting the China market or considering doing so has more than doubled to 9% in the past 4 years, citing increased competition from local companies, unequal market access, economic headwinds, and geopolitical risks. 44% have taken steps to address risks linked to their business operations in China, including building up China-independent supply chains. 86% of the 566 German firms surveyed between September 5th and October 6th said that China's economy is facing a downward trajectory. Similarly, a Japanese Chamber of Commerce and Industry in China survey of 1,700 Japanese companies operating in China, also published in recent weeks, found 75% do not expect China's economy to improve this year. 48%, almost half, said that they plan to reduce or suspend investment in the country. Next up, we have more to cover. If you're enjoying today's episode of China Update, don't forget to hit the like button. Liking, sharing, and subscribing all helps for the channel. And for anyone who can go that extra mile and help me keep China Update financially sustainable, Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee links are in the description below. This is a lot of work, but all your support are all incredible sources of motivation. So thank you so much, everybody, for the ongoing support. Moving back to the AmCham survey from yesterday, China's market remains significant for US businesses, with half of the polled members viewing it as a top 3 global investment destination. The companies said that they hoped the US and China could moderate their rhetoric and pursue effective high-level dialogues, while continuing to urge the Chinese government to treat US businesses fairly. But 57% of companies lacked the confidence that China would further open up its markets to foreign firms, with 39% saying they feel less welcome in China, while 31% said they felt more welcome. Thus, we can see a very mixed picture for companies on the ground. It is not a mixed picture for foreign investors, however. That picture is relatively bleak. According to Bloomberg compiled data published this week, global funds offloaded 14.5 billion yuan, $2 billion worth of shares on a net basis in January via trading links with Hong Kong, extending their selling to a record 6th month. That brings the total amount of stocks sold since August to 201 billion yuan. US-based Bloomberg writes on the trend, quote, "A plethora of concerns, including China's property woes, the absence of forceful measures from authorities, and jitters over any spillover from derivatives, known as snowballs, have dented accumulated inflows into A shares since 2017, which have paired to about 1.6 trillion yuan. That has weighed on the onshore benchmark, which was down more than 6% in January, capping a record 6th month of losses." End quote. China has witnessed a shift in the foreign investment landscape in recent years. After a significant FDI, foreign direct investment growth of 20.2% in 2021, the growth rate slowed to 8% in 2022, before hitting an 8% decline in 2023. Foreign investors selling of mainland shares in January represented the strongest outflow of foreign investment since 2014. Next up, and finally for today, I know this is a little dry, we'll cover it briefly, but it is very important for us to note. During a Politburo study session this week, General Secretary Xi Jinping expressed that, quote, "high-quality development is an unyielding principle in the new era. Developing new productive forces is an intrinsic requirement and an important focus of promoting high-quality development, and it's necessary to continue to well leverage innovation to speed up the development of new productive forces." End quote. New productive forces is a relatively new concept, which Xi Jinping first mentioned during a September 2023 inspection tour of the northeastern province of Heilongjiang. Analysts believe that this political concept may give clues as to what Beijing's future economic strategy may be. And from what we have heard so far, it sounds very statist. Today, Friday, state-run Xinhua in a special commentary expressed, quote, "From the first mention of new productive forces in September last year to the deployment of developing new productive forces at the Central Economic Work Conference, and now to the systematic explanation during this group study session of the Politburo, General Secretary Xi Jinping's series of important expositions and major deployments on new productive forces represent an innovation and a development of Marxist theory of productive forces." End quote. The state-run Beijing Youth Daily writes today, quote, "New productive forces are dominated by innovation. They are characterized by high technology, high efficiency, and high quality." End quote. And perhaps most tellingly, state-run Global Times writes also today, quote, "Developing new productive forces signals that even more resources will be directed towards making science technology breakthroughs in critical areas, boosting China's science technology self-reliance and self-strengthening." End quote. It then reveals more of the thinking behind the concept. Quote, "Coming at a critical time for the Chinese economy, which is undergoing a profound transformation and is facing an increasingly complex and hostile external environment marked by the US-led containment campaign, developing new productive forces is China's clear answer for tackling those challenges and ensuring long-term sound development." End quote. Adding, quote, "New productive forces will play a more important role in the Chinese economy." End quote. We will continue to follow this space closely. Okay, that is today's episode of China Update. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. Have a good Friday, and I will see you all either tomorrow or on Sunday.